At the time of recording this video, it's safe to say that compound interest in the format of high interest savings is dead. Locations all around the world are offering absolutely terrible returns for you stashing your money in a bank account. So let's talk about what you can do about it. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reece, and in today's video, I'm talking about compound interest, what it is and how you can benefit from this method of saving in the long term. So let's start off by breaking down what compound interest is and how it works. So let's say you want to put some money into a bank account, and let's say you have no intention of withdrawing that money whatsoever for 30 years. So the bank will then pay you interest, and let's say you reinvest that money, so you just put it back into that savings account and it just keeps topping up. That means that over the course of time, there's going to be more interest paid on the total amount of money in that bank account. Then the cycle continues, and as time goes on, the amount of interest you earn will go higher, as well as the balance of your bank account will also grow higher. Here's the math to explain it in super simple terms. Let's say you have $1,000 to put into a bank account, and let's say you're going to get paid 2% interest on that money. After 1 year, you would be paid 2% on $1,000, which is $20. So total, you would have $1,020 sitting in that bank account. And now we're going to go another year. 2% on $1,020 is $20.40. Let's say again, you put it into that account, bringing your new total to $1,040.40. And the cycle will continue forever. Now, I just left the example there as a super simple example, just to give you the concept of how it continues to compound over time. The amounts don't matter, and how you can really and truly understand how this would be applicable to you in a certain circumstance like this, I've left a link in the description below to a calculator, which will basically do all the thinking for you. So you can change the parameters, such as the amount of time you want to leave your money in the account, the amount of money you start with, the percentage that you're thinking you are going to earn over that period of time, and the amount of interest that's going to be paid to you each year. Basically, what you can do is settle the parameters to say, okay, so how much money would I need to put into a bank account and leave it there at this interest rate, or how consistently would I need to add to it to get to a certain number in the future? It's a fun little tool. I find it really useful. Check it out if you wish. Now, there are many factors which will affect your amount that you save over the course of that period of time. Things like you withdrawing money from the account or adding money to the account, the interest rate going up or going down. Some of these are out of your control, some of them are within your control, but just understanding the concept of how compounding works is the first step of this video. So now the discussion component of this video, with the understanding out of the way, there are some important things that you should understand about compound interest. Strictly sticking with the bank account example that I was talking about earlier, back in the day, and I love that I can say back in the day, it's 2020 now and I'm a big old man, back in the day, interest rates were much higher than they are today. As an example, my parents used to earn 17% on their savings, meaning for some people with like $1 million, that's $170,000 a year that's being paid to you in interest by a bank for having your money in that account. Some people didn't even have to work. They could just leave their money sitting in a bank account and would make enough money from that investment basically to just live off the return. It was a pretty safe bet. Banks don't usually go broke. And basically you earning that kind of money is just insane for it doing nothing. It's just sitting in a bank account. You don't have to do anything, it's automated. Today, however, it's a little bit different. With stagnating wages, economies slowing down, a few recessions have been thrown in there, and now a global pandemic, interest rates have never been lower. They're actually at the bottom that they can go before they start going negative. Here in Australia anyway. In countries like Japan, they actually have gone into negative. That's a video for another topic. It's a topic for another video, but my point here is that the situation today is much different to how it used to be. This has now resulted in people basically getting offered not much by the banks. We're talking less than 1% for them putting their money in a savings account, especially in Australia and definitely other countries too. Why is this problematic? Is because it's now questionable whether or not you should actually be leaving your money in these types of accounts, because they're not actually going to give you what you need to retire. Even with $1 million, it's only $10,000 a year in interest. That's not enough to survive off of, but that's a lot of money to just be sitting in a bank account doing nothing. You want your money to work for you. That's a good saying that I definitely appreciate. And sitting in a savings account to compound right now is probably not the best way you can be managing your money. definitely something to understand. Now, moving away from the spectrum of bank accounts like savings accounts, you can apply this logic to things like investing in the share market. The returns are generally much higher. And again, I'm no financial expert, but look at statistics, watch a million YouTube videos, and you'll hear the same thing over again, that your money would probably work a little bit better in shares, as an example. I'm sure you've heard people like Graham Stephan. If you watch channels like mine, you probably watch channels like theirs, where they say $1 million in the share market at a 4% return, which is pretty common, it's definitely achievable, will pay you enough to live. That's 40 grand a year. Like, it technically is enough to survive. It might be a frugal lifestyle here in Australia, but it will be enough to live if you had to. Now, while this may be true, earning 4% on your $1 million investment into the share market might give you enough money to live in the form of dividends, as an example, these types of comments frustrate me, because realistically, how many people have access to a spare $1 million that they are going to willingly put into the share market whilst they can still do everything else they need to do in their life? Because me, as someone who earns great money, I'm 26 and I'm very careful with my money, am nowhere near achieving that goal. There has got to be a lot of things to fall into place for me to even be able to consider that, and then let alone live my life and do things that I want to do within my life. I really wanted to touch on this type of comment because you'll see it come up a lot through lots of different YouTube videos, and I'm sure that you can resonate with what I'm saying right now. I wanted to put my 2 cents in because this is a platform for me to call out that type of bullshit, and this is a great example of the comment logically makes sense, but realistically isn't going to apply to 99% of people watching these videos. And it's one thing that I really wanted to get off my chest. So with the concept of compound interest explained, and me putting in my 2 cents about how the unrealistic expectation of having $1 million spare to invest in the share market isn't going to apply to most people, let's look at ways that would be a better alternative to you having your money sitting in a savings account, basically earning you nothing in interest. Depending on your age and the time you have left before retirement, you'll have a few options, and all of these options will potentially be viable alternatives, if not better alternatives, in the current economic climate. They will change, and by the way, I just want a disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm a random dude on the internet talking about my own experiences and things that have worked for me. They might not necessarily work for you, but regardless, hopefully it gives you some knowledge, some insight, and something that you can take away and go, I can go look at this holistically. I can go and search for more information about the suggestions that I'm talking about in this video. Number 1, spend all your money. Yep, spend all your money. There's no point of it sitting in a bank account because realistically, you're not earning any interest on it. So what's the point of having it there? It technically doesn't make sense. Just make sure you have what you need to survive, and then the rest, go buy new things, go buy collectibles, things that you might think that might appreciate in value over time. Collectible car, that's an example. I don't recommend doing it, but it is something that you potentially could do. Now to the more reasonable and practical solutions. My second suggestion, and one that I am currently kind of doing, is moving any spare cash out of your bank account into the share market. I'm investing in index funds because index funds generally invest into a large diversification of industries and things that basically, if one of them goes broke, your other companies that they're invested into will be pretty safe. It's a video that I'm definitely going to make, so I will link it in the description when I do eventually make it. But just as an overview, investing into the share market generally will provide you a better return than putting it in a savings account with a bank. And realistically, they pay dividends, which then gets reinvested, basically compounding over time. That's my second suggestion. Option number 3 would be to look into purchasing property if it's something you have capacity to do. Now, this one I'm going to get a lot of backlash for because housing bubbles and people are waiting to time the market and so many different factors. But something to definitely understand is that property generally, especially where I live, is an appreciating asset. It's something that generally goes up in value, something that people will always need. Having a physical piece of land that you own is more valuable than digital currency. In economic downturns and things like that, actually owning a piece of land can be beneficial. The other aspects of owning property is that if it's an investment that you do purchase, there are some tax benefits that you can get from owning that asset. On top of that as well, in my circumstance particularly, I have an offset account. So all of my extra money goes into an offset account, basically meaning I pay no interest on my loan, and I'm slowly but surely paying off an asset that I will eventually own outright. And it's not really that expensive to do it depending on what you're looking at. You might not have the $1 million to invest in the share market like what Graham mentions in his videos, but you may have enough money to get your foot in the door to real estate, which might be the right move. Food for thought. I'm not telling you to do it, but definitely consider it. My fourth and final suggestion is to look into cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency is severely underrated. I've made a video and I have a playlist, and I am someone who's making content surrounding this, but there are many people who create this type of content, and it's useful and it's good and it's interesting content. I highly recommend you do some research into it, because if you're someone who does have money just sitting in a bank account, I would consider putting some of it into something like cryptocurrency. The potential that those markets have is just crazy. It's like a brand new share market. I'm not going to say any more about it. This video isn't about cryptocurrency. Just understand that it is an option, and it's something I encourage you to look into depending on where you sit at the moment. All of these options except for option 1 should be considered. Option 1 was kind of thrown in there as a wasteful option, just as a little bit of a joke. You could do it. I won't blame you for doing it, but I personally wouldn't. I'm someone who is doing options 2, 3, and 4. I am investing into the share market. I am investing into cryptocurrency, and I have purchased property with the intention of reaping the rewards of things like taxation and owning a tangible asset. It's an investment. It's not my owner occupied house. I will be making a video on it when I do eventually purchase that one. But the point here is that I highly encourage you to be taking steps to look into what you need to do in order to make your money work for you. That's the most important thing. And compound interest right now through the general means of savings accounts probably isn't going to be the best thing you can be doing. Overall, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it was insightful, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, I will see you in the next one.